All right. So when it comes to choosing a prime and a choice brisket, I think I noticed you were maybe cooking on a choice before in one of the videos. Which one do you choose and why? Or, is it what's readily available?
For me, the thing that's most important is like, especially when I'm buying a bunch for a pop-up, I just want briskets that are going to be like uniform in size and shape. For example, if I'm at Costco, the choice there is terrible. They're always way too big or way too small. The primes are generally pretty good. So the last time I went to a purveyor, and that's the one where I got a bunch of choice briskets. And there were some prime there. It wasn't that much more expensive, but I personally just love the size of the choice briskets to kind of start with. And just kind of going through the cases, like the sizes were pretty consistent all the way through. And then you always kind of have to ask the person, like, how many briskets are there in a case? And then you take that total weight, and I kind of divide it just so I can get a rough idea of how big these briskets are going to be. Because sometimes they come in these like really giant cases, and I'm like, if this is 4, I don't want to even open these. But if they say that they're 5, then it's like, okay, that's a pretty good number. You kind of always have to like figure out like where, like if you're buying in bulk, right, you have to figure out what is the average size of them. I like to open up like 1 or 2 cases if they'll allow you to kind of see how much fat that they leave on top, because at the end of the day, you don't want all your briskets to be scalped, but you also don't want briskets to have so much fat on them, because that you're paying for that cost,
No, for sure.
So to me, it really has little to do with whether I'm going with prime or choice. To me, it has to do with the size, the weight. You want them to cook as evenly as possible. You don't want one giant one that's gonna kind of slow down the cook for everything else.
So, kind of jumping on that really quick, what's the actual like pound wise? A lot of the ones you did were roughly about the 9-10 pound range after trimming, I noticed.
Yeah.
I know where you want to be.
Yeah, I would say so. I think once you get to like 10 pounds or so, you can generally get them done probably within like the 13 to 14 hour mark.
Yeah.
When you have some that like after trim are around 13 pounds, like those are the ones that kind of tend to get to your 16-hour cooks and things like that. I don't think it's necessarily bad if you have a bunch of them. You just have to know that your cooks are going to be longer, or maybe you can cook a little bit hotter because you have to get more moisture out of those bigger cuts of meat. So you just kind of like knowing what you have, it just allows you to kind of plan your cook a lot better.
Right. I think I made that mistake where I've been trying to buy really, really big briskets because the flat is a little thicker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the smaller ones actually eat a lot better too. I always tell people too when they're trimming it, because they see how like, the thickness of a lean slice with the done cooking, but they don't realize that before we cooked it, like it's pretty thin and it will plump up a little bit. And this is a mistake I made like so many times when I was first starting off, is that I would try to get the thickness of my lean to be what I want it to be at the end, but then it just plumps up into a hockey puck, and you have very little lean to slice, and that lean like slices are super tall. At that point in time, I probably left on too much fat too, because I didn't know how to trim properly, and I was worried about over seasoning such a big piece of meat that like I didn't put enough salt on there, so it was just like a very overly fatty, under seasoned, very like not good slice of lean.
Sure. Everyone has that story, man. I mean, like I said, I'm still not 100% there, but I've gotten a lot better from where I started. I can definitely admit that I still need help. So,
Hey man, there's some times when I cook things too, and I'm like, I don't know if I really learned anything when I went to Texas. I was like, this is not a good brisket. It happens.